Hello there, Stephanie here from My Prints Collection, the place where you will find lettering and illustration tutorials. On this tutorial, we'll be creating a 3D lettering effect with a floating shadow. The materials that I'll be using are the iPad Pro 12.9 inches and the Apple Pencil, and the software will be the Procreate App. So without further ado, let's jump into the tutorial. I'm gonna open the Procreate app. I have my canvas already set up. It's gonna be a screen size canvas, and I'm gonna use these two colors. You can write anything that you want. You can use your own lettering, or you can use the add text feature from this app. I'm gonna be using that feature to speed up the process, but as I said, you can do your own lettering and apply this effect. So I'm gonna go over here to my layers, add a new layer, and we are gonna tap, hold, and it's gonna select this color over here, and the color that we'll be using is 02B4A2. I'm gonna go over here to my actions, click on add text over here, and you can use any font from Procreate, or you can import your fonts. I'm gonna write my quote, dream big. I quite like this quote. I'm gonna just decrease the size of the canvas so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm gonna tap 3 times really quickly, so it's gonna select my entire lettering, my entire quote, so that I can make my adjustment. I'm gonna tap over here. It's gonna open the panel where I can make my adjustments. So first of all, I'm gonna just drag this over here, and I'm gonna increase the size of my quote. So when you have this problem, what you can do is just drag these lines over here, so you can use this entire space. I'm quite happy with the size. I want to be all caps, so I'm gonna tap over here. It's gonna change my lettering. I'm gonna decrease a little bit the size. Let's go with 300. I'm going to change here leading. Leading, it's the space between your quote or your words. And I'm going to increase this a little bit because we are going to have a 3D effect, so we need space, and we also need some space between our letters. So I'm going to go to tracking and increase that a little bit. Let's go with 12. I'm happy with that, and I'm not going to make any other changes, so I'm happy with this. Just gonna place it. I'm gonna center this a little bit. So to center, you can drag and you'll see these lines. So this is perfectly centered, but I'm gonna move this a little bit to my left because I'm gonna create this 3D effect going towards this way. So I'm happy. I'm gonna duplicate this layer just as a safety if I want to make any changes in the future or if I don't like the end result, and I'm gonna unselect. And on the top, on this layer over here, I'm gonna tap on it and click rasterize. It's gonna change from a font that I can edit to a layer which on where I can actually draw and make any changes. So I'm happy with this. What we are going to do is swap to the left, click duplicate, and we have and this duplicates the previous layer. We are going to select the layer underneath, and we are going to change its color. So I'm gonna tap and hold on my second color, which will be 006B7E. And to change, this is one of the methods that I like. This is my favorite method to change the color with 2 fingers. I'm gonna swipe to the right. It's gonna lock the layer and the pixels that I wanna, and only the pixels that I wanna change. Tap on the layer and fill layer. layer. Now if I turn this off, you can see that it only painted my lettering. So I'm going to go back to my layers with 2 fingers again. I'm going to unlock this layer. I'm going to duplicate this layer and you will see why in a minute. And the layer underneath, so this one over here, I'm going to tap on it, hit my selection tool, and just let me turn this one on so you can see what I'm doing. With the selection tool, you can, my shadow is gonna go bottom right, so I'm gonna tap over here on the corner and place my my layer where I like. So I like this placement. Bear in mind that the more space you have between this layer and this layer, the bigger is going to be the effect of the 3D. It's going to be a bigger 3D effect. So I'm happy with that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go back to my layers with 2 fingers. I'm going to pinch those together and merge the layers. You can do it like this. Okay. And with this layer selected, I'm going to go back and I'm going to select a default brush from the Procreate library. So I'm going to use the studio pen from the inking set. And with this color selected, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to close the gaps. So I'm going to go over here and close the gaps. And to fill this blank space, I'm going to tap, hold, and drag to where I want to fill. So it is important to close the gaps, because if I do that and I don't close the gap, it's going to paint my entire camera. So I'm going to repeat this process for my entire quote, and I'm going to speed up the video so that you don't have to watch me paint everything. So now that I'm quite happy with the effect, I have everything filled out, I'm gonna create some light and some shadow. So my light is gonna come from this point, so it's gonna have like a light going towards this way. So this is gonna be, it's gonna have a shadow, and this is gonna have light. So my favorite method that I like to use is I'm going to go to my layers, and the layer underneath, the one with the dark green, I'm gonna add a layer, tap on it, select clipping mask over here, and change its mode to overlay. So what it's gonna do is I'm gonna use white and black. So when I use black, so pure black, exactly. So it's 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 3, 5, 6 zeros. I'm gonna paint this with the black color. So what it's gonna do, it's gonna pull the darkest color of this green, which is a greenish bluish color. So it's actually a black one. So I'm gonna go back, click again on the brush library. I'm gonna use the studio pen. So the way that I like to do that is to go over here, create, so over here, so this is my shadow. I'm gonna close the gaps and drop my color. So this is gonna be dark. This is gonna have a little bit of dark over here, and it's gonna be dark over here. So I'm gonna fill this in. It's gonna be a shadow as well, so a little bit of shadow over here, and I'm gonna do that for all the layers, all the letters. I'm gonna create the shadows, so I'm gonna speed up the video. So now that I have my shadows, we are gonna make a few adjustments later on. I'm gonna create my highlights. So let's go to the layers. You can add a new layer, clipping mask, and change it to overlay, or the quickest way for me is just duplicate this layer, tap and click on clear over here. So now you have a blank canvas. For the highlights, I'm going to use the color pure white, so pure white over here, and the value is 6 F's, 6 F's. So I'm happy with that. With the same brush, I'm gonna do that again, but I'm gonna create a highlight. So I'm gonna do this over here, and this is where I think my highlight will be. And I'm gonna do it over here as well. And I'm gonna repeat the process. This looks really raw right now, but we will make future adjustments so it will look nicer, and it's a quicker way to create shadows. You can always use a soft brush and do it manually, but just for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna do it this way. So I'm gonna speed up the process and complete the highlights for all my words. So now that I'm happy with the result, we are gonna blur this a little bit. So I'm gonna go to my shadows, which is the one that we've painted with the color black. Select the layer and click here in adjustments. We are gonna use Gaussian blur layer, and we are gonna tap, hold and swipe to your right. So you probably don't see it. Let me increase over here. So again, tap, Gaussian blur, and we are gonna blur this a little bit. Here we go. And we are gonna do the same thing for our highlights. So again, over here with the layer selected, Gaussian blur the layer and drag this. So quickly, you've created a 3D effect with some highlights and shadows. This is the quickest way. Of course, this is a rough sketch. I will go in and add more details or correct imperfections, but for this tutorial, this looks good. Now we are going to create our 3D floating shadow. So on the first layer, we are gonna duplicate it and tap, hold and drag it, and it's gonna be underneath all the layers that we've created. And with 2 fingers, swipe, and we are gonna select the color black. Double tap here, it's gonna select pure black. Go back to your layers, click on the layer, fill layer, and now you can see that it's filled with black. So now I'm gonna turn these on again, and I'm gonna, with 2 fingers, click over here, select this, drag it over here, and we are gonna create a shadow. So we are gonna blur this, use Gaussian blur layer, and we are gonna blur this out. So like this. Let's go with 5.5%, and let's select this and create a floating shadow. You can drag it this a little bit more with the layer selected. So since we have a strong effect, I'm gonna adjust this. Going back to my layers, click on the end sign and adjust the opacity. I'm gonna decrease the opacity to around 50%, 51, and there you go. You've created a 3D lettering with a floating shadow. If you like this kind of tutorials and think that it was useful, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video and share it with your friends. As always, we hang out in the library. If you're looking for freebies and free brushes, make sure to check the link down below in the description and subscribe to the library. Until the next video, happy drills and illustrations.